Hi guys! Welcome back to yet another fun DIY sailboat refit video here about good old Athena. This video is sponsored by Audible, more about that later. This morning, after a quick bit of sanding to knock down the grain of the wood, I applied the last coat of primer to the inside of the settee. Tonight, before leaving the boat, I can apply primer to the last little bits of plywood up here. I've been waiting for the epoxy on the foam strips to cure, and then in a couple of days I can start applying top coat, and then all of this will be sealed up. But first, there's a hole I want to patch. This area is going to turn into Athena's new head or bathroom. A little later in this video I'm going to start to put up the bulkhead that's going to separate the head from the technical compartment, which is going to be here behind me. In the technical area I'm going to put stuff like the isolation transformer, the charger, the inverter, the boiler for the heating system, the fuel polisher, stuff like that. Before I can start putting together the bulkhead, I'm going to remove this port light and glass over the hole. It's going to be a lot more practical for me to have an opening hatch up here that's going to be covered by the dodger. Pay absolutely no attention to the bird poop over here. I am so pleased I installed this thing using a butyl-based bedding compound. As you guys saw, this was very easy to remove. The laminate here is a little over 5 millimeters thick. There is a golden rule that says that you should use a 1:12 bevel when tying into old laminate when patching holes. Of course, it is much more important to stick to that rule if you're patching the hole from, say, an old through hole, but I'm gonna stick reasonably close to that ratio, so let's go ahead and get started. It is very windy outside today, so I've just covered up the port light with a bit of cardboard. But let's go ahead and get the edge of my bevel marked. As I hope you could see, I just go by feel when doing this. It is not rocket science, it's just a matter of beveling the edge. Here, I've removed about half of the material. I'm gonna do the same thing on the outside, but I'm gonna do that next summer when it's nice and warm outside. To give me the rough size of the biggest piece of fiberglass, I'm going to use a bit of peel ply. Some plastic would have been great, but I just don't have any. I'm going to trace the inside edge of my bevel, and again, this doesn't need to be super precise. To patch the hole, I'm going to use my favorite fiberglass fabric, the 600 gram BX. I've wrapped a little bit of cardboard in the remnants of an old garbage bag and some peel ply. Let me show you what this is for. For me to get all of the air bubbles out of the laminate I'm going to be laying up here, I need something to push in against. And if I just put a piece of plywood on the outside, well then there's going to be a little bit of a lip because of the material I left here to bevel on the outside. And this, I'm hoping, will be the cure for that. Here I've got my piece of cardboard taped in place. I've got a piece of plywood here covered in plastic so it doesn't become a permanent part of the hull. And then I'm just going to wedge all of this in place. I am running very low on fast hardener. I've had this sitting around since last winter. There's a little bit left in here, but because it's been sitting around, the color has turned kind of red. That is okay, it is just a color change. The physical characteristics of the laminate should still be the same. As you can see here, this is much more of an amber color. And the cherry on top, a little bit of peel ply so I don't have to do as much sanding. If you're going to be patching holes aboard your boat, West System has this really cool manual where they go over their suggestions for various procedures for patching holes. I'll include a link for that manual in the description below. It's the next day and my patch here should be cured enough that I can go ahead and remove the plywood backer. This looks basically perfect. There are no air bubbles, no voids. Perfect. Because of my little plastic and peel ply wrapped piece of cardboard, this is what I'm left with on the outside, and it's going to be very easy to grind a bevel on this and lay up some more glass. It is raining a lot here in Denmark right now, so I think it's easier for me to wait until we get a dry period or until next summer to lay up the outside laminate. The next step is to prep the surface of the hull, which of course means plenty of oh glorious sanding. That was a lot of work. I would like to say that this is starting to look more and more like a head, but in reality it's just starting to look like an empty space. Having said that, it is pretty cool that in just a few months this is gonna look like a real bona fide head. Doing demolition and prep work like the time-lapse you've just seen is very time-consuming and pretty tedious. I mentioned Audible is sponsoring this video, and that is because every time I do work like that, I listen to an audiobook. In fact, every time you see a time-lapse in one of my videos, I am listening to an audiobook from Audible. Right now I am listening to Duma Key from Stephen King, but they also have tons of sailing-related books if you're more into that. One of my favorite is the classic 2 Years Before the Mast. Audible includes an unmatched selection of audiobooks, original audio shows, news, and comedy. Listen to Audible on the go, while shopping, going to the gym, or while traveling around the world. You can listen anytime and anywhere and on any device. Mobile, Alexa, Bluetooth, and more. Go to audible.com/saillife or text saillife to 500 500 for an exclusive 30-day free trial. You get 1 free audiobook of your choosing and 2 Audible originals absolutely free. A big thank you to Audible for sponsoring this video and for keeping me entertained here aboard Athena. With all of the demolition and prep work out of the way, it is time to take a look at what will hopefully turn into be a very spiffy bulkhead in a few days. But I think we'll save that surprise for tomorrow. And just like that, tomorrow is today. Let's go ahead and take a look at that big exciting box. For this bulkhead, I'm going to be using foam rather than plywood. Foam is way more expensive, it is also way more time consuming, but on the plus side, it insulates a little bit better than plywood and also it's more rot resistant. I have to get these sheets of foam to match this pretty irregular shape. I think it's going to be easiest for me to start from the inside here. This first piece should be pretty easy because I can reach the back of here and just transfer the shape onto the foam. Yep, that seems acceptable. The next piece is going to be a little bit more fiddly, so I think it's time to bust out the cardboard and make a template. I'm sure this is not intentional, but it is very convenient that the foam comes with a couple of pieces of cardboard that's the exact same size as the foam. By slowly making small adjustments, I was able to get a reasonably good fit here. An alternative to this method would have been to cut a piece of cardboard that was undersized and then put little pieces of cardboard on there with tape or something to form the shape of the template. But that gets a little bit fiddly. That is one more piece of the puzzle done. There's just one more piece left. I'm not going to lie, that was a pretty fiddly job, but the third piece is in there. Because I'm not sure whether or not I can get the bulkhead in there when the 3 pieces are joined together, tonight all I'm going to do is just join the 3 parts together with a bit of thickened epoxy and a single layer of fiberglass over the joints. This is why the galley is the very last thing I'm going to build. The bulkhead just barely fits on the cabin sole. By putting down a little bit of plastic, I'm going to be sure the foam doesn't get adhered to the plywood. If I am not mistaken, then this box should be from the Fast Hardener ferry, a fresh supply. Yahtzee! It's the next day, the epoxy has cured, so let's go ahead and get the excess fiberglass trimmed and see if I can manhandle this into position. That was a pretty close call, but I think I'll still be able to get it in there once I've glassed both sides of the foam and it's much more rigid. But it occurred to me while I was doing this that I better go ahead and beautify the inside of the technical compartment before glassing this thing in place. And of course there is also the small matter of the hole I'll need here to gain access to the technical compartment. So let's go ahead and cut the hole first. I think the easiest way of figuring out the size of the hole is from the inside. I really hope I don't get trapped in here. This big gaping hole will be the entrance to the technical compartment. This is 84 by 66 centimeters. That's a pretty good size opening. It's nowhere near as claustrophobic in here as I thought it was gonna be. I think this is gonna work out okay. Even though access is gonna be pretty epic, I might as well just clear all of this out and get everything sanded before I put up the bulkhead. That was a lot of sanding, but the technical compartment is now ready for primer. I can see I still need to do a little bit of sanding way down there, but other than that, this is gonna have to be good enough. It's been a couple of busy days here aboard Athena. Tomorrow I need to spend 2 weeks with my fiancée Ava in Los Angeles, but before leaving I should be able to get the bulkhead installed and maybe even also get the first coat of Sigma Duo 520 applied in the technical compartment. Over the last 2 days I've laid up glass on both sides of the new bulkhead and I've also applied 2 coats of primer in the technical compartment. There is a little bit of excess fiberglass I need to trim. In my opinion, it is easier to lay up a little bit of extra glass and then trim it afterwards compared to try to line up the glass with the edges here. That would be very fiddly. So let's get to trimming. Well, here goes nothing. Oh, nice. It still fits. The outside and the inside of the bulkhead is going to get tabbed to the hull just as the other bulkheads, except for where the bulkhead butts up against the old bunks. There it's going to get adhered to the old bunks with some thickened epoxy. I've cut some strips of fiberglass to use for tabbing the bulkhead to the hull. I really wish I could find somewhere in Denmark to buy strips of BX in, for instance, 10, 15 and 20 centimeter widths, but I can't, so I'm stuck cutting it myself like some sort of caveman. To hold the bulkhead in place, I'm just going to drill a couple of holes. And then I can through bolt this to the bunk structure so that everything stays exactly where I want it. I'll coat the plywood with unthickened epoxy first, just to make absolutely sure I get a good bond. Then I'll spread out a thin layer of thickened epoxy on both of these surfaces. Of course, the bolts are only there temporarily to secure everything while the epoxy cures, but they do a great job of holding the bulkhead in place, so let's go ahead and get it tabbed to the hull. I don't know what I dislike the most, sanding fiberglass or tabbing bulkheads, because they both really suck. Time consuming and tedious, but at least the bulkhead is in. It's too late in the day for me to start painting the inside of the technical compartment, but it's going to be the same light grey color as the hull underneath the cabin sole. So far my plan is to put the boiler here for the heating system, the isolation transformer down here, charger, inverter up on the hull here, and then I have all of this storage down here for tools. Up here I could mount the filters for a water maker, and yeah, I think this is just going to be a really cool space. Tomorrow before flying to LA, I'm hoping that I'll be able to shoot a quick little Q&A video that I can publish next weekend, and also do a little bit of tidying up here aboard Athena. She is not exactly looking great right now, so yeah, it'd be great not to come home to all of this mess. I'm very excited to continue working on the technical area and also the head. I've got a pretty good idea of what I want to do with the head now, and I think it is going to be very cool. But that is going to be it for this video. As always, feel free to leave a comment down below, and don't forget, if you've enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like. See you!